Hi, welcome to Kate's Kitchen. I'm Kate. Today we have what my husband Dave likes to call a backstory for you. A couple of weeks ago I did a video called Mother's Love in a Jar, where we talked about homemade and home preserved chicken soup. And several people pointed out that they did not know how to make the chicken bone broth that was the basis of the soup. And I had forgotten to make a video when I was making the bone broth. So today we're going to go ahead and make some more bone broth, and you'll see how to do it. The first thing I need to tell you is I started out with the carcass of 5 chickens. Most of them I had baked. A couple of them I bought as rotisserie chickens. We ate the meat off of them and I saved the carcasses in the freezer. Once I got 5 of them together, it was time to make bone broth. This is how I did it. I took the carcasses out and I put them in my largest stock pot. I covered them with filtered water and I added onions was the only thing I added. No, I take that back. I added just a little bit of garlic as well, but mostly all onions. I put them on to boil and I left them boiling for about 15 hours. Now I didn't leave it at a high rolling boil. I turned it on to a low simmer, but it cooked for a long time. And then this morning I turned it off and it's been cooling for about 6 hours so that I can get into it with my hands. I want to show you what it looks like now at that stage. But this is the beginnings of bone broth. Let me bring the camera over a little closer and I'll see if I can't show you more up close. There, I think that might help some. It's still very hot, but this is it. Basically, it's got all kinds of bones and chicken meat and skin and internal organs that come when you buy a chicken whole. And what we're going to do now is we're going to scoop all the solid pieces out and put them in a bowl, and that will leave us with the broth itself. I use what they call a spider. It's the easiest way to get a lot of solid out of the liquid. And as you can see, there's a lot in there. Now, aside from the carcasses of the 5 chickens, I also had chicken wing ends, the little tip end that there's not much meat on. Dave and I like to have chicken wings often. And so I'll buy a package of wings and I will snip off those little ends and put them in a bag and save them for bone broth as well. And all I'm doing right now is just getting all this meat and bones and things like that out of broth itself. And there, as you can imagine, there is a lot of it in here. Now, once I get all of this out, I'm going to allow the broth to cool just a little more. And then I'm going to find a container and put it in my refrigerator for several hours to allow the fat to congeal, to harden, so that that can be peeled off. And then we will have, won't take all of it out, but I do like to take some of it out. But right now, we're still just trying to get all the solid pieces out of here. I will also use the solid pieces. I have several uses. After it's been boiling in the bone broth mixture for a while, it loses its taste pretty much, so I don't usually use it in people food. But I have a dog and a cat that absolutely love boiled chicken, and that's probably where the majority of it will go, is into feed the animals. This is what I got out of that big pan. There's lots of food, lots of meat, lots of bones, and a bunch of skin. This is now broth with suspended fat from boiling. And like I said, we're going to cool it and get some of that off, and then we'll go on to the next stage of making the broth. And I will bring you back when that part is done. Welcome back. We've had a little bit of a change here. Basically, I got the broth that you saw, and I decided to taste it. So I put a little bit in a cup, and I tasted it, and I decided that although it was good, it could use just a little more flavor. So I've decided not to take the fat out, but to leave the fat in it as part of the flavor of the broth. So what I have done instead is I've started filling my bottles. I have 10 pints already in the canner right here. My canner can take 2 levels of pints. So we're going to put the next rack in. This is jar number 11 that's going in. And now we're going to continue to fill jars until we have the canner full or we run out of broth, whichever happens first. Now, one of the things I want to show you all is as I am filling the jars, I am filtering the broth a little bit. And the reason I'm doing this is what you see in here is not only small pieces of meat, but it's also little bits of bone, little bits of gristle and things of that nature. We don't want that in our broth, so, excuse me. So I'm filtering that out as we go. Put our funnel in. This is all very hot, by the way. And we fill it to within 1/2 inch of the top. It takes a minute to do that because it's getting a buildup of all that debris in the bottom. Now, 1/2 inch from the top is this first ring around the neck of the jar. So we want to bring it right up to that ring. And there we are. We don't want to go over that, so I'll move it back over to my little catch jar here. And as always, when we're canning, we take a clean paper towel, dip it in some vinegar, and we're going to clean around the rim of the jar and around the threads. The reason being, we want to be sure there's no oil or anything else in there because we want to keep the jars clean so the seal will work. We take one of our lids, which is hot, but it has not been boiled. The manufacturer says there's no need to boil these lids anymore. Put the lid on, the ring on rather. Screw it down tight. Not as tight as you can get it. Don't be a big muscle man or something, but get it comfortably tight. Take it over and put it in the canner. Now I probably have about 3 or maybe 4 more pints in the bottom of this pan that I need to can. So I'll go ahead and finish that. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the lid on my canner and process it. I need to explain a couple of things to you about the canner. First of all, it is a weighted gauge canner. That means it has a weight. Let me bring this over. It has a vent pipe right here. When steam builds up, it vents out there, and then there's a weight that goes over it. There is also a gauge right here that helps you track how much pressure is going on inside your canner. Therefore, it is a weighted gauge canner. It is also a metal-on-metal canner. The reason that that's called metal-on-metal is because there is no rubber gasket around the inside. There's no rubber gasket here. This is the metal of the lid against the metal of the canner. Now, in order to make this work right, you have to put a thin layer of some kind of lubricant. I prefer to use coconut oil. I think it's a better product for this. It does not get into the food, but it does make it so you can open the canner once you're done. I suggest that you check with your manufacturer of your canner to find out what is necessary. One thing I can tell you on all canners, you have your vent pipe. You need to hold it up to a window or a bright light and look through it to be sure it's open. You don't want to forget that because that allows the excess steam to vent out. And that is one of the safety features built on the all-new canners. We're going to process these pints for 75 minutes. The reason it has to be so long is it is a meat product. It is no acid, not just low acid, but no acid. And to make it shelf stable, it must be processed for a minimum of 75 minutes for pints and 90 minutes for quarts. I'm going to fill this up, put the lid on. When it comes up to pressure and there's steam coming out of the vent pipe, we'll let it vent for 10 minutes, then we'll put it on. When it comes up to pressure, which in my case is 10 pounds because I'm almost at sea level, then we'll process it for the 75 minutes, turn it off, let it go down, let the pressure dissipate on its own, and then we'll bring you back and see all the cans of broth that we finished. I'll see you in a little while. More than 75 minutes have happened since the last time I was here. We brought the canner up to pressure. It got up to 10 pounds per square inch. We put the weight on and we let it process for 75 minutes. At the end of that time, we turned the oven off, and it has been cooling naturally ever since. Now what we're going to do, now that there is zero pressure, as you can see from the gauge, we're going to remove our weight, unlock these, and then we will take the cans out. You unlock it or open it the same way you closed it, and that is with opposite sides. You loosen them. Be careful because it's hot. There we go. But you have to loosen opposite sides at the same time. That's another of the safety features. It keeps things even inside. Now, most of the pressure is gone from inside this canner. But I will tell you that it is still very hot in there. You have to be careful because it's still giving off a lot of heat. When you open a canner after it's processed down, always open it away from your face. There we go. There will be some steam and you don't want it to catch your face. There we go. I'm just going to set it aside for the moment. We managed to get a total of 15 bottles of stock. We take each one out, bring it over and put it on our padded surface. It needs to be in a draft-free environment because you want these to cool naturally and slowly. There is still pressure inside these jars, and there will still be bubbles going, and it is still extremely hot in there. So, you want to be very careful. You want it to cool down slowly so that there's no chance of breakage, and it will make a good seal. There are our first 5 jars. Now we have to get the rest out. Whenever you're doing canning multiple levels, if you have a canner that handles that, always, always, always use a rack between each layer because you don't want those jars to sit on top of each other. It can cause breakage. It can also cause things to spew out inside your canner. There are 9 more bottles in there, but this is what you're looking for. Once this is cooled, the tops will do that little ping because the dome cap will come and become convex instead of concave. The jars will cool, and you will then be able to rinse them off, put labels on them, and put them in your pantry. That is it. That is now, you now know how to make chicken bone broth. It's very easy and it's very good for you. Take care. Come back again soon. Bye.